what? I was just about to say it was Friday. It is Saturday. Saturday, May 3rd, and you are joining the revolution.
Actually, no, it's not. It's Saturday, May 30th. Not.
What did I
3rd.
say?
You said
Did I say 3rd? Ah,
yeah,
crap.
You're going back in time and whatnot.
You know what? My neck hurts. Give me a break. Anyway,
Well,
so you know what? You know what? Suck my nuts. Okay, it's Friday. It's Friday. It's friggin' Saturday, and it's late in May, and you're now joining the revolution with EJ and Pete, and I am the wonderful, although I guess time confused EJ, and with me is my pretentious, overcorrecting co-host that resembles an angry leprechaun who had his gold stolen from him, Senor Pete.
And it is 2015. Dominic.
Fuck my ass.
Well, I think that's probably why your neck hurts from being in that time machine. You know, when you get like whipped back with all that inertia, I mean, it could be a real bear. So
it's
not to be confused with the dead bear. So
it's not because my neck hurts. It's because my neck hurts because I went through a time portal or a machine. And okay, I got you. All right.
And it's been known to cause issues, down the road with, knowing what day it is. I mean, what the hell? I mean, you went through time, space, and dimension. So, you could be forgiven for such things.
Oh, okay, that's cool. It's kind of funny. I got my kids the Mortal Kombat X game for their birthday.
Right.
And I was playing it, and they have these special X-ray moves where, like, you can. It shows like an X-ray of the body, in full detail of like gore and stuff, bones breaking and stuff. Well, one of the female characters, goes in when she's fighting a male, goes for I think it's a knee to the nuts, and they show the testicles, like they show the nuts, like in an X-ray view, splattering. It's.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
And that's for the twins, you said?
Yeah, for my 8-year-old twins.
There you go. That's perfect for them. So,
It is funny. Like, I buy it. Okay, you heard of that gear, that game. Oh, crap, I can't remember the name of it, so you probably don't remember hearing of it. It was a car game where, like, it was kind of like a Mad Maxy kind of thing where, like, or like a death race kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I remember playing that years and years ago, and then they came out with a new one. And I was like, okay, cool. It's the one with a clown on it and stuff. And so I was like, all right, cool. I'll get that for my son. He likes all that kind of crap. And so I got it, and it opens up with like this dead girl, like that this clown had just killed. Like the clown is like some like child killer. And like, and there's like, now there's, this girl is older. It's not like a little girl, but she's like, she's dead. And like, and then it goes through this scene about how they like he was trying to kill this one girl and she got away. So they wound up, like he winds up hunting her down. And anybody that looks like her, he kills. Like how she would, when she was older, and that's the whole thing. But I'm like, this is just about like driving around and killing things. Why the extra gore? I don't know.
Well, there was kind of like no need for it.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that's my, that's my opinion on that.
Of that.
My review. I'm actually looking things up, because it's a weekend and we don't really, we're doing other things and we kind of just try to play catch up.
I looked at a bunch of different jazz that I have here.
Invitae is reinventing
One
genetic
is
testing,
a really,
offering
really
reliable
good
and
article that
affordable
I came
genetic
across
information,
on
quicker
Western
turnaround
Rifle
times,
Shooters.
access to genetic counselors for you or your
From
patients. Visit
a place that I never heard of
Invitae.com/advantage
before.
to learn more.
And I think the actual name is of the blog spot is No Passeron. I don't recall ever reading this person. It doesn't mean, I haven't. But I don't ever recall this site. And the title of it is What is Fascism? And it goes into a lot of different things that, well, I'll tell you what, if we can't see the similarities between what the fascism that he's talking about and the fascism that is going on right here, right now, we're blind. We're completely and utterly blind.
Well, we see it. We know it. I actually just posted.
I say we as a whole.
Oh, okay.
As a whole.
The average dimwit that cares more about sports and a Barca lounger or something like that. What the hell is a Barca lounger anyway?
I think it's some sort of like easy chair.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, but we get the point with that. I mean, you care more about your flat screen TV, which look, I like a flat screen TV. And I thoroughly enjoyed watching the Rangers get eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs last night.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they did. Oh,
I think you'd be into that. So.
Yes. They lost. It was great to see their goalie pouting after the game and everything. It was good stuff. So, but I like my sports. I like my flat screen TV that I play Battlefield on and kill 8-year-olds online.
You don't just kill 8-year-olds. You destroy 8-year-olds.
I destroy 8-year-olds. I mean, I went from being an 8-year-old, the 8-year-old community's bitch, to being like, they all call me daddy now. They're like, Daddy, don't hurt me anymore. Like I'm like this like abusive parent that roams online and kills the 8-year-olds en masse.
You're like a scourge of the third grade community en masse.
So anyway, but I look, I enjoy all that, but that's not everything. I mean, there's other things that I'm interested in, like the fact that we've become a tyrannical state.
Right.
Right. These things actually do matter to me. And that's one of the things that's funny, because a lot of people say, you shouldn't watch TV and you should just care about. No, I'm gonna watch TV. I'm gonna watch some mindless crap like Zombievers. Okay.
Right.
And I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna laugh. I'm gonna look at boobs and say, well, those are some nice boobs, and now a zombie beaver is attacking the girl with said boobs and stuff like that. I'm gonna watch that.
Right.
Okay.
Now, before you go too far, I'm gonna hit a squirrel here.
Or a zombiever.
Or a zombie first. But you mentioned boobs, and I don't know if you know this, but there's a new craze out there to raise awareness, and I believe it's mostly in Europe right now, but it's slowly but surely making its way over to the former United States. It's called Hold a Coke with Your Boobs. And what you have to do, now this is women, of course, have to be able to put a bottle or can of Coke in between their boobs and dance around, and be able to have the can and or bottle of Coke stay there the entire time while they're topless. You can have no aid of a bra or a shirt or any other tape.
What about your hands? Can you push your boobs together?
You cannot touch them. You can push them together to start, but you can't. Then you have to leave your hands off of them. Now,
so this is really for only girls with what at least C cups or greater.
Oh, you have to have a minimum boobage of a C cup. I would assume. Now the only thing you can do not the hand bra, but like finger bra, so that you don't show nipple. Now, what most of these girls did that I saw on YouTube, but most of them did is they covered their nipple and areola with tape. So, and some of them had odd little tape. I was like, wow, those are little tiny nipples. But so they Wendy O. Williams it. Yes, but without electrical tape. Most of what I saw was painter's tape, and I was like, oh wow, that's a good thing because painter's tape's not known for being real sticky on the skin.
Yeah.
So I was hoping for something, but no. So it's just something that's coming across. I just want to make everyone aware because, as you know, I do keep track of trends in the pop culture. So that's my thing.
No, you don't really keep track of many trends unless they're boob trends. You tend to keep track of the boob trend.
Well, is there anything else in pop culture?
Oh, sorry, no. Did I ever tell you about the woman? Okay, you're chasing a squirrel now. I'm going after that squirrel again, or some more. When I was in college, I was an art major, and one of our one of our prereqs was figure study. And we had this it was an older Asian woman, I'd say 45 or something like that. So it wasn't a really big turn on for me, and she had short hair. An Asian woman with short hair is just like, it's blasphemy, because
it's like a shower with a raincoat.
Well, not only that, but like most Asian women, let's be honest, most of them don't have the big boobs. Most of them don't have a big ass. They don't have as much a figure as other types of women do. So when you when you get a short haircut, then you look like a dude.
You look like a 12-year-old boy.
Yeah, you look like a 12-year-old boy. And this woman had hardly any boobs. They were A cup, if that. Mm. But I swear her nipples were at least an inch and a half long.
Well, that's
at least an inch. I would say, right around an inch and a half long. You could hang your laundry on her nipples.
Yeah, well, coat hanger nipples, they're called. So.
Yeah, I mean they were. I mean, I've seen nipples of varying length, but nothing. It's like all the growing kind of just bypassed the boob and went straight to the nipple. It was, and I would actually just draw her chest. I was so fascinated by these nipples. Not in a sexual way though. It was
it was the novelty of it.
I mean, because honestly, if I was to suckle on one of said boob or one of the nipples, I would honestly feel like I was giving fellatio to a small penis.
Right.
So yeah, it was
man.
Or an Asian man. There we go. So, and I would look up and say, "Holy crap, maybe I'm gay for Asian men." So, there's a boat you probably hear. So anyway, so that was that. So I don't even remember what the hell we were talking about.
Well, you were saying, how we don't, for the average people that don't pay attention, that they don't watch TV, and like you were saying, you don't watch TV, and I certainly don't certain things, but
I was saying I do watch. No, I was saying I do watch TV, but there are people.
But you understand that that's not your source of information.
It's not my source of information, but it's not just that. It's a lot of people are saying don't watch TV because, you should be aware of what's going on. Well, you know what? I can watch my mindless crap and still be aware of what's going on. And don't go around telling people, It's one thing to say, hey, look, if you're getting your information from the mainstream media, you're being lied to. Okay, if you're looking for information, consider other sources. That's one thing. But to tell people, hey, look, you shouldn't watch like anything, any TV. Don't watch any of that mindless crap. You know what? People need to unwind. They really do. They need to unwind. I do too. After looking up all the crap that we look up, the last thing I want to do is go look up more crap.
Right.
There just comes a point where I'm like, I know the world is effed up. I know that all these things are going on, but I'm gonna unwind now. I'm going to watch.
After a while, you get a little bit of doom fatigue. It's it's simple as that. You can't constantly be barraged with it and not want to escape it a little bit.
Yeah, to look at a boob, right? I mean,
Right.
Oh, speaking of which, I don't know if you saw this. California just moved closer to. I don't know if they've actually passed this, but they're attempting to at least pass that all women or all people, especially women, that work in the pornography industry, are to wear goggles.
Yes.
Goggle porn.
Yes, goggle porn.
Now the reason for this is anybody who's seen a porn, and I have seen, I was forced to watch one once. It was horrible. I couldn't stand it.
Which downloaded only specifically for the, education purposes.
Well, yes. I downloaded roughly a terabyte of porn for educational purposes.
Right. Just,
it's funny when I tell people that. I'm like, yeah, I got about a terabyte of porn or so, probably more now. And people are like, oh my God, how do you watch it all? I'm like, I don't.
No.
I haven't watched a fraction of it. It's a hobby of mine. That's pretty much what it is.
And let's be honest. You are a prepper.
Yes.
So basically, you're just stockpiling what you feel as though is most necessary for when the excrement hits the rotary air diffuser.
Yes, and if said thing happens, I'm going to have such a biodiversity of women to pass the time with, because you're going to have you're going to have some extra time on your hands. You're not going to be able to necessarily watch your normal programming,
Right.
So anyway, but now the reason for this is because they're saying that it is because when I'm trying to be PG-13. Well, I can. Okay, when a girl gets a money shot, she winds up often getting stuff in her eye.
What's known in the industry as a facial.
Yes, that's a facial. And ladies, we're not talking about a cucumber and sawgrass, mud bath. Okay, so I'm just letting Donnie C know. I don't know why I always have to let him know that our show is on, but anyway.
Well, it helps them.
So anyway, so yes, it is when a man pulls out of the vagina or blowjob or butt of the woman and ejaculates upon her face. And they wind up getting some stuff in there. Now, and you can get an infection that way. You can get infected with, like, if somebody was goo in your eye and they had HIV or hepatitis, you could get it that way. Because your eye is very porous, it absorbs things. I mean, if you were to drop acid, like LSD, in your eye, you would trip. It absorbs right into your bloodstream. So I mean, I get that, okay, but nowhere did I see that they were going to make these people wear condoms during the sex act. So you can go ahead and plow away in a girl, and they didn't say anything about what's known in the industry as cream pies, when a guy busts a nut inside the girl's pooch or butthole. I wonder what they call it if it's a butthole. Is that like a chocolate cream pie or something? I don't know.
I believe that's called a Santorum.
A Santorum, frothy. So anyway, that's good. I think that's what I'm going to call it from now.
Or possibly now, we don't want him to take all the glory. It may be called a Santorum and or a Hastert, because obviously Hastert seemed to like doing that as well.
So anyway, but they're not, it didn't say anything about that. It didn't say anything about them using condoms. They just got to you got to put on a set of goggles. Can you imagine, like, you're like, oh yeah, like it's panning from like, the feet, it's going up and you're like, oh yeah, oh look, oh that's a little bit of a landing strip. Oh, that's looking good. Oh, look at those boobs. They're looking good. And for me, it's like not going to be fake ones. It's going to be real ones. Oh yeah. Okay. Now, oh, nice mouth. What? Goggles? What is this?
So it could be worse. It could be worse. They could be saying that they have to wear full face masks.
That almost might be better, because I'm thinking, like, if I see goggles on like a girl's face, I'm gonna be like, is she about to like have sex or start using a Bunsen burner? I mean,
hey, wait a second now. There's something that you can use that, with like the scientist geek chick thing, with the lab coat and the and the gloves. But
yeah, okay.
All
right. Look, and I even considered that. And that's going to be done, like, right off the bat. That's going to be done. Yeah. And then it's going to be old hat. And then it's going to be like, okay. I mean, it's just horrible. It's horrible.
Well, maybe just don't do it.
Well, yeah, but then you get fined and you get all that kind of stuff. And, it's just not good.
Just don't pay the fine.
It's not good.
It was. Just tell them no. I don't think that members of the government who have brought this up, like statists and things like that, such as Denny Hastert, ever thought about having his wrestler boyfriend wear a pair of goggles. When he was butting out him.
Sorry,
did you hear the reverse?
No. I was just I'm trying to access the chat on YouTube, and it keeps wanting to play the video. I keep trying to turn it off, and it keeps. Plus, I did a test, and I'm trying to get it off of there because it shouldn't show up, but it's showing up. You know what? YouTube is a pain in the ass. I really don't like YouTube. I mean, this whole thing is kind of a pain in the ass, and it's more of a pain in the ass because I like to sit outside and do the show. I don't like to, and my laptop sucks, so I can't do it there. But one of these days, I got to see if I can get that thing fixed. But anyway, so
that might be a good way.
So anyway, you were saying about Dennis Hastert. Now, give the background of Mr. Hastert.
Well, Mr. Hastert at one time was he was a senator, and he was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is years and years and years and years ago, was the not the speaker, but he was the House Minority Leader. Actually, no, he was the Speaker of the House. That's right, for a while. Years ago. Now, he was a well-known neocon. He certainly wasn't considered a conservative, by any stretch of the imagination. But as it turns out, years and years ago, he was having sex. He's queer, a closet queer, of course, but where he would have sex with one of his students prior to him being in Congress. He was a teacher and a wrestling coach, which is just a wonderful place for a pedophile. He was able to get it on with one of his star wrestlers at the time. Now, years passed, and of course he became the Speaker of the House, and he became very influential, and he certainly was well known at the time during the time he was in power. But then after that, he became basically a gun for hire, and became a lobbyist, and he was getting blackmailed by this wrestling guy, his ex-student. He was going to basically expose him and say, he made me have sex with him way back when, and he was going to go to the news agencies with it. Well, he was already under investigation and under indictment for some other sorts of activities that weren't related to this whatsoever, but like bribery and things like that, things that are normal for a lobbyist.
Politicians. Yeah,
and politicians in general. So, it's their standard mode of operation. So he offered this young fella, maybe he's older now. I guess he's probably in his 30s or 40s now. I believe it was a sum close to $1 million, if not more. I've heard the story change a couple times. So, but he offered him a sum, to stay quiet, which then led, I'm going to say authorities, quote unquote, to see other things that he's done. Now, I'm going to say he's disgusting. He's a friggin' pig. He's a scumbag. He's a pedophile. And he's a politician and a lobbyist. So that just kind of covers all that anyway.
Yeah.
The only problem that I have with all of it is not only did the Washington Compost and the New York Slime and all the different papers and all the different news agencies like PSNBC and the Communist News Network and all the different leftist news agencies were waiting to pounce on him. Now, when things broke about Barney Frank, did you see all of them waiting to pounce on him? No. When all the different things that broke about Bill Clinton, not with Monica Lewinsky, but with Paula Jones, if you remember Paula Jones, who actually came out with she stood up and said he raped me. You know that the media sat on that story for over a month before they even talked about it. This wasn't even the ink wasn't even dry on this deal, and they were going after him simply because he wasn't a leftist. Now, he's a statist just like the others, but he's a right-wing statist. So they didn't like that, so they're going to go after him. And he was a Republican, so of course they're going to go after him as quickly and as hard as possible. So just to show you the difference, they could come out and just say, hey, listen, this guy's a real scumbag. He's a pedophile frig. Get rid of him. Put him away. Do whatever you got to do. But no, they wanted to dredge everything up. And now this is going to go on and on and on for, I'm sure, at least another 2-3 weeks, that this is all they'll be talking about. And what bothers me about that is, what are they missing? There's other things going on. What are they not talking about? Mm-hmm. I know one thing they're not talking about is tomorrow night when the Patriot Act expires, and only a few are talking about Rand Paul and his stand against the Patriot Act. He's going to make sure that this thing expires. He's going to do everything in his power. Now, the other so-called constitutionalists and conservatives and all these different big wigs that say, well, we stand for rights and we stand for the Constitution, such as Ted Cruz, such as Scott Walker, such as Ben Carson, and all these different people that have thrown their hat in the ring in the GOP race. None of them are talking about it, except for him.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, Cruz doesn't have a leg to stand on because he voted for it last time. So he's not for real. We know he's a fake, a phony, and a fraud. You know, and the other ones, oh, well, we need the Patriot Act. We need this. You know, we need the NSA spying on us without warrants and all kinds of different things. So just goes to show you, there's only one person, once again, that's going to stand up for you, and that's a Paul. So it's really that simple. And while all this is going on, if you look to Iowa, now, as everybody knows, because we're starting in silly season, Iowa is the second caucus that goes on. It's actually the first caucus in the primary after New Hampshire. Scott Walker is leading it. And nobody knows why. And the second one is Marco Rubio.
Yeah.
What does that tell you about people?
Tells me they're idiots.
Yeah. He's followed, let's see, Walker is backed by 17% as the state enters its busy summer of candidate visits. A planned straw poll campaigning in the Iowa State Fair. Okay, well, now I'm reading this again. Tied for second are Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky and retired neurosurgeon Ben Carson. Now, why he would even be there, I don't know, at 10%. And Bush and former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee at 9%. How could they even be close? They're followed at 6% by Rubio, and the Iowa caucus winner from 2012, Santorum.
Oh, well, don't even mention him. I mean, you know, I can see why Ben Carson is there, and it's not because I support Ben Carson. Okay, you know, he kind of put his foot in his mouth when he said that he was not, you know, he didn't think that people in the inner city should have, you know, should be able to have an assault rifle, you know. That, you know, that right there kind of ruled him out for me, you know. But now I've heard people say, "Oh, well, you know, it's you know, he didn't mean it," because look, I had this argument with somebody before, and he was an idiot, you know, and he kept saying how, oh, well, you know, look here on this quote and here on this quote, he says that he's for the Second Amendment and all this kind of stuff. And I said, here, look at the dates. This is what he said first. I'm not for, you know, I don't believe, you know, basically I'm not for the Second Amendment, you know, for people who live in cities. I don't think they should have, you know, large capacity magazines or assault rifles and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So, and then I listed all the complaints, you know, articles and stuff. I said, okay, now look, a lot of people complained. Then he says, I would not infringe upon the Second Amendment one iota. But it was all after he had already kind of put his foot in his mouth with his initial statement. You have to go with his initial statement. He didn't misspeak. He's a very smart man. He didn't misspeak. You know, so that alone makes me not support Ben Carson. I mean, really, and that's about it that I know of. I'm gonna go on a.
He was asked about the NDAA at one point as well, and it was clear that he didn't even know what it was.
That is true. That is true. I remember that. Now, what I was going to say is that it's also because he doesn't know, but I do believe he's a little bit more hawkish. You know, he is definitely, and it wouldn't surprise me one bit. And I do believe I read, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's in, I know it. He's in support of the Patriot Act.
Oh, sure.
So all those things say to me, I'm not going to support him, but he's an Allen West. Now, Allen West, we've mentioned before, Allen West says all the right things. We supported Allen West in the beginning. You know,
okay.
I mean, cautiously. And here's the thing. We cautiously support anybody. I mean, there's only one person out there that I would completely support and just say, you know what, he's got my total undying support, and that would be Pete.
Rand Paul.
Ron Paul.
Sorry,
Ron.
I took a drink.
No, Ron Paul.
Ron
Not
Paul.
even Rand. Rand, we've been cautiously optimistic.
Right.
You know,
right.
I mean, and we've said all along, and I know I've said, but I mean, you haven't disagreed. And I know you like to disagree, even when you kind of agree sometimes, just to disagree. So, so I'm going to say that your lack of disagreement shows that you agree with me. Is that we thought he was playing the game, but we said we could be wrong. Could be wrong. He might not be. You know, he might have been bought out. He might have. Who knows? But it just seems like he's playing the game on issues that don't really matter one way or the other. He's going GOP base. But when it matters, that's where we're going to see. That's where we're going to see where he really stands. And hey, look at it. He has stood on every, and we've mentioned this before, on every key issue that really matters. He has stood on every key issue. You know, people say, oh, well, you know, what about the budget? What about, you know, because that is one thing that, I mean, I'm not going to deny. I wasn't totally thrilled when I saw that he had an increase in spending. Although, let's be honest, he had decreases in spending in other areas and also had decreases in spending within the military budget.
Right.
But overall, in the military budget, he did have an increase in spending. I'm not going to deny that.
But where were those increases? And that's key. The increases weren't on offensive. How can we put it? Intrusionary, and intrusionary may or may not be a word.
Just say empire building.
Empire building, right? They were basically for defense, and part of what he was submitting was to actually have people, the military stationed at the border, and the increase was also to take the Coast Guard back out of the Department of Homeland Security. I don't know if people realize this, but the Coast Guard is no longer considered part of the military. They are now part of the Department of Homeland Security. That's where
they all are.
No, the military is a separate branch. But the Coast Guard specifically is part of the Department of Homeland Security. So they fall right under them. And that was to take them back out of the Department of Homeland Security, put them back into the military, and have them patrol once again the different borders and sea borders. He said you cannot expect the Navy to be halfway across the world and patrol our borders as well, and be ready for an enemy intruder. That's
Which is what Ron Paul had always said, too. He said he wants to use the military to protect our borders. Imagine that.
Mm-hmm. You know, and he was very specific with this. I wish I could find the damn article. Not only with the Coast Guard, but he was very specific about the southern border. So everyone that calls him an open border guy, they're wrong. Where they call him Amnesty Rand. It's just not true. You know, he doesn't want amnesty for everybody. It's you know, he said, what do you do with them? They're here now. What do you do? The key is to stop the influx.
Yeah, his first move was secure the border, and we've talked about that. So I mean, that's the key is, but put it this way, here's the one thing I would actually kind of disagree with Rand Paul on in defense. Now, I think the defense thing was a capitulation. I got to admit, I think it was a bit of a capitulation because Lord knows conservatives, quote unquote, they need to have the defense. You suggest that you are going to cut defense, and oh my goodness, they're going to just crap a brick, you know. So, so the thing is, I do believe that was a capitulation, but I do still have a problem with it because it is, you know, it is it's an increase in spending. We spend more than what, the next 26 countries on the list?
Well, actually, more than the next 15 combined.
Okay, the next 15 combined. To watch our border, I don't think we need that many.
No. Now, do we need a strong military? By all means. You know, especially with the threat from Russia, which there is clearly a threat at this point again, and China is taking a very threatening stance in the Pacific, and actually they're kind of goading us right now.
We need to have. Here's the thing. I do agree that we need to have a strong military, and we do need forward bases. That I actually agree with, you know, and I probably go against a lot of people, you know, that maybe we might be friends with and stuff like that, in that assertion. But I do believe that we have to have a strong military, and we have to have some tactical bases.
You're right.
You know,
but we don't need 186 of them.
We don't need, and that's just in countries. That's not the number of bases. The number of bases is like 700 or some crap like that.
Oh yeah,
we don't.
You could cut those in half.
Oh, easy. I was thinking maybe a quarter. Mm-hmm. You know, cut them down to a quarter of what they are. You know, that's my problem is, you know, and it's, I know it's your problem too. We're spread too thin. You know, and we can't continue to be the policemen of the world. You know, hell, we can't even police our own damn country.
Yeah. We can't protect ourselves. You know, I mean, well, that was a lot of it is because that was meant to be under the current administration. But you know, when you have border agents told not to stop people from coming in, there's something wrong.
Oh yeah.
You know, especially when all they did was tout for months and months and months before that, oh, well, you know, Al-Qaeda might get in, you know, and now it's Al-Isa. Al-Isa Muhammad Brotherhood Qaeda. Al-Isa Qaeda Hood. You know, whoever you want to call them, Boko Haram or whoever they are, you know, I'm sure they're in there too. So, you know, it's really ridiculous. And we sat there and went, oh, okay, yeah, we should probably protect the border because, well, you know, you got Al-Isa Qaeda Hood, so we gotta watch them. So, you know, we don't want anyone to get through. But then they said, well, yeah, but just don't stop people. Because I got to tell you, I couldn't tell you the difference between an Al-Qaeda guy and a Mexican. I really couldn't.
I mean, we laugh, but it's totally true, right?
Yeah. I mean, what's the difference? You know, it's just, to me, it's, you know, unless you get right up to them and see, you know, Mexican looks more like you know, an Indian. Not an Indian, hothead Indian, but, you know, Indian, like American Indian. So, you know, that's what they look like. It's the higher cheekbones and things like that. Whereas, a Middle Eastern, it's going to have a different look. Usually bigger nose, longer features. They do have a different look to them. But, at a distance, wearing, Mexican, drug mule clothes, they're going to look about the same.
Yeah.
So it's, they definitely look Semitic when you get up close. But, from a distance, unless you're about 10 feet, maybe 5 feet away, you're not going to be able to tell the difference.
Yeah, so and just like you were saying, it was done obviously it was done intentionally. And then you look at these Mohammed contests and stuff like that. Where one guy that I guess was setting up some protest or something, he's actually gone into hiding because he's received so many death threats. It's. And the fact that you had somebody come in, and look, ISIS has claimed we have sleeper cells, and Al Qaeda claimed it. And if you don't think they have it, then you're a fool. I mean, the border's wide open now, and then that goes back to what you were saying. Was it done on purpose? Was it just neglect? Was it the levees of New Orleans where it was like, hey, we got a lot of money, but we kind of funneled it to our personal accounts, but we didn't really mean for this to happen. We just thought that we didn't think it would, that kind of thing? Or was it, hey, look, we actually put a bunch of like holes into the levees to make them weak so this would collapse, and then we'd be able to get rid of some neighborhoods we didn't like, like what is it, the Ninth Ward, and maybe we can have that bulldozed and put some nice condos in, and get what we want, kind of like a false flag operation. Maybe it was that too.
Ooh, could be.
It could be, Rabbit.
It might be. So, you might have it. So, another thing could be, the whole Hegelian dialectic, have the solution, cause the problem, supply the solution.
Implement the solution.
Which would be, once again, a crackdown on more rights. So, it's part of overwhelming the system, kids. It's right out of the playbooks of everybody's favorite pair. What the hell is their name?
It's on the tip of my tongue. Clara Piven, yes.
Yeah,
I was going to say the old hippie, revolutionary, radical, communist, F-tards.
Right.
Hey, I got a question. I know we're trying to be a little more PG-13 and stuff, which I think is smart on our part. But is this next word, and if you've got children listening, you might want to mute your listening device for the next 15 seconds. I want to know if you would consider this word as above PG-13. Twat waffle.
Twat waffle would be above PG-13, yes.
Damn it!
The word twat is definitely above PG-13.
No, that really sucks. My wife hates that word.
I'd call it a cooch cake.
A cooch cake? A coochie cake?
Is,
but hold on a second, though. But a cooch cake sounds like something good to eat. I mean, a tea waffle, because now we've now ventured back into PG-13 land. A tea waffle, that doesn't I mean, seriously, you're like, oh, look at that tea waffle, and you're kind of like, oh wow, that doesn't sound edible. It sounds like there's fuzz and hairs and lint and maybe some dingleberries mixed in there. That's what it sounds like. You say a coochie cake, and it's like, oh look, coochie cake. It's a nice little, it's got the little cherry on top, and it's got a little frosting, and it's not yellow with lumps and stuff. So Yeah, it's yeah. I don't think we can substitute coochie cake with. It just sounds too nice. It sounds delectable, actually. In fact, I think I'm going to make some coochie cake tonight. So
Well, it could go into our new thing, save the pooch, free the cooch. You know,
what was that about again? I can't even remember.
I don't remember. But
You don't
I just remember
remember?
the phrase. It's one of those phrases that just stick with you. So.
Save the pooch, free the cooch. Yeah, I don't even remember. It was something about like libtards or something like that. I really don't remember, but it was funny.
Actually,
And
I think it had something to do with like SWAT teams killing dogs, and we wanted people to show their cooch more often.
yeah, okay. It had something. I don't quite remember. It was, but it was
But
funny.
At the time, it was really, really good, and it's a great slogan.
It is. I agree with that. So I'm going to mute myself, and I'm going to go ahead and test out the sound on the show and everything.
Okay.
So
While
go ahead
you
and
do
talk.
that, while you do that, I'm going to read this article that I found very interesting from No Pasarin, blogspot.com.
Okay, but it's not a super long article, is it? You and I have.
Yeah.
You and I sometimes do that, and I think that's. I think it's in the realm of Mark Levine, or I don't even know how to pronounce his Mark Levine. It's really Mark Levine. I mean, come on, he's Jewish.
It's Levine.
It's not Levine. It's Levine. It's in that because you and I have to admit, neither one of us have a. We don't have the type of voice. We don't have that. Who's the black actor that does all the sound? Not Darth Vader one. You know who I'm talking about. God, I can't remember him.
Are you thinking of Morgan Freeman?
Yeah, Morgan Freeman. We're not Morgan Freeman-esque. Where we can like, oh, by the way, he's turned one of his like properties into super prepper land.
Yeah, I think that's a fake thing.
Do you? It wouldn't surprise me because he's in tight with Obama. He's probably like got inside information.
Yeah, it could be.
Anyway, we don't have Morgan Freeman type voices, so when we read, we don't draw the reader in. We other than maybe drawing the reader into La La Land where they start falling asleep on us. So
I don't know. I think I do a halfway decent job.
God, now you're making it all personal. You're like, you just hurt my feelings.
Okay, I am sure. Well, go ahead, listen, and I'll keep this as short as possible.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll be listening in too while I'm testing this because this is what happens when you don't have a producer to check all these things. Anyway, so all right, here's Pete with his best Morgan Freeman.
Yes, I am God. No, fascism then is that system that maintains the facade of private property, but what you end up having is this bizarre marriage of business and state. Fascism is an economic system that marries the state to business, where business holds the title but the state holds control. The idea that religious people cannot make thoughtful arguments is believed by R.J. Sproul Jr.'s commentary on fascism's true nature, audio at the link, which, of course, you people can't hear the audio at the link because you don't have the link. Some of you, though, I trust not all of you, are familiar with what we call Godwin's Law. This is a particular law which is born out of empirical study of the Internet, and it holds that given enough time, any and all Internet arguments will eventually involve some side of the argument accusing the other side of the argument of either being like Hitler or of being a Nazi. The corollary to that is the first one to make the observation loses the argument. The problem is, however, that because we don't know what fascism is, and because we associate it with a bunch of accidental trappings to it, we miss when it comes to us. Fascism, first and foremost, is an economic theory. It has a precious little to do with the horrors of the Holocaust. It has precious little to do with the world conquest. And it certainly has nothing whatever to do with goose-stepping and Heil Hitler signs and all the other kinds of stock bad guy things we know from Nazi Germany. Fascism is an economic system that is distinguished from socialism or communism in a very narrow way. Don't forget that while we like to present fascism as the hard right on the political spectrum and communism as the hard left on the political spectrum, fascism is a socialist concept. The name Nazi stands for the National Socialist Party. What distinguishes the fascists and the communists is not socialism or not socialism, but rather National Socialism versus international socialism. There is also this critical distinction. Communism exists as a theory that suggests that the only way to have an economic justice is not merely to divvy up the fruit of production equally among all members of society, but that it is about ownership of the means of production. This has to be the universal or ultimately in the hands of the state. The state owns the means of production. Fascism disagrees with that. Fascism is a system that affirms that private individuals certainly may own property. They certainly may own the means of production, the tools and the factory, the ways in which things get made. What defines fascism, however, is that while individuals may own property or the means of production, control of that property and the means of production remains in the hands of the state. Now, if we know much at all about the ownership, about what ownership is, what property is, we would recognize that essential to the concept of property is control. If you control my car, you drive it. You fill it with gas. When you want to fill it with gas, you change the oil when you want to change the oil. But let me hold on to the title in my file cabinet at home that I really don't own that car. You own that car. Ownership requires control. Fascism, then, is that system that maintains the facade of private property, but what you end up having is the bizarre marriage of business and state, where the business is protected by the state, the business is shielded from competition, guaranteed of profits, but ultimately controlled by the state. Does this, I wonder, sound awfully familiar to anyone? Fascism allows us to own property, but it tells us that we have to pay for those who work inside our factory. It tells us what percentage of this material we must include in the thing that we make. It tells us how many hours people are allowed to work. It tells us this and it tells us that, until finally you are left with the obvious conclusion that the state owns what we think we own because it controls all that we have. Friends, we don't have a socialist economy here in the United States, despite all the squawkings and the screaming about President Obama, nor do we have a free market, despite what we would like to believe or what we might have enjoyed. We are living in, economically speaking, fascism, where property is held privately in name only, but controlled by an army of bureaucrats from the central government. This is one reason why we are called to love and seek liberty, because fascism is a betrayal and an assault upon the right of property, which is given to us by the Creator himself. That is what our founding documents say, and more importantly still, that is what the Ten Commandments say. Fascism isn't just bad economics, it's theft. So, other than the little bit of religious fervor at the end of the piece, it definitely hits the mark. We've said this time and time again.
Yeah, oodles of times. Oodles.
Yeah.
Oodles of times. And just to let you know, we sound awesome. Not a bit of a drop. Not a bit of it. I really think that the settings I changed made a difference, because I haven't heard any glitches from you this entire time.
Well,
so I think what was happening was it was the broadcast was coming out. It was trying to broadcast too much, and I think it was screwing up the computer. I think the whole feed was getting screwed up. I haven't heard any kind. Usually on Skype you hear like that kind of crap. I haven't heard one thing like that from you this entire time, and the sound sounded great. I think that's what was needed to do. So now I have the settings saved, and if you ever want to broadcast again, I'll just tell you. I changed one thing. That's it. I changed the bit rate. I lowered it down to the lowest bit rate possible. Because all we're doing is audio, and we're just sending out, that one signal. And if we ever do, wind up, doing video, it'll still be low because, that's not our big thing anyway. So screw you. So, but anyway.
Now, one thing you did say that it sounded good. You didn't say that I sounded exactly like Morgan Freeman.
You did not sound like, well, it was a nice October morning, and we were walking along and skipping stones by I can't do it either. So anyway, we've said it oodles of times, and I just want to say oodles a couple more times. Oodles. We've said it oodles of times. That, we don't really have socialism. Although I do believe that this president is either socialist or communist, and we've said that too. We've said, hey, look, the only...
for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the only difference between, and we've said this before too, because a lot of people get confused. They're like, well, what's the difference between socialism and communism? Very little. In reality, there's no difference really, other than one is to try to make everything global under this socialistic, concept, because there is no true, and that's the thing, there is no true communism on a large scale. Just like there couldn't be anarchy on a large scale. It doesn't work. Because you have to actually rely on people to be honest and not greedy. Both systems rely upon that because they're both voluntary systems. And that's something that a lot of people don't recognize, that anarchy is most closely related to pure communism. Because pure communism, there is no government. Everybody just kind of does their own thing, and everybody's equal, and and that's just how it works. And everybody participates.
No, that's not true. In pure communism, everyone works towards a common communal style of living, where everyone has to do their part in order to sacrifice themselves and to provide for the community.
But there's still no real government. But the thing is, there's still no real major power. Yeah.
The exact opposite.
Yes.
Exactly, you don't contribute at all.
It's true, but it's all voluntary. That's my point. That's my point. Is it's all voluntary. I mean, although yes, anarchy is individual, and communism is communal. It's all voluntary. For the true anarchy and true communism, it's voluntary. So in that sense, they're very similar. But neither works out in the real world kind of situation, because I'm not going to study my ass off to be a doctor and get paid the same as somebody that's going to sweep the floors at the hospital. Sorry, not going to happen. I'm not going to stress myself out and turn prematurely gray over passing all these exams, while you sit around and get drunk and high with your friends, and you just got to do some janitorial services. And I'm not knocking janitorial services, but there's no goddamn way you deserve to get paid what a doctor does.
No.
Okay, so let's make that clear.
Just that the people that will actually say, well, communism does work in certain circumstances. And a lot of times they use the communal living in Israel in the kibbutz.
Yeah, or hippie communes and stuff like that.
Right. Well, yeah, a lot of the real people usually just use the Israel model, because they say, well, this actually thrives. The kibbutz thing is like a summer camp.
Yeah.
I don't think these people understand this. This isn't how the rest of that country's run, although they are pseudo-socialists. And I'll tell you what, every time you bring that up, the gasp that you hear from not only the religious right, but the right wing of so-called conservatives, they go, well, yeah, but it's different. Well, no, it's a pseudo-socialist country.
Yeah.
Don't pretend that it's not.
Yeah, just because they're God's chosen people and that's what you believe doesn't change the fact of what their government is.
Right.
I mean, it just, shut up. I mean, just shut up. I mean, seriously.
Yeah,
but back to what we were saying. So truly, in reality, the only difference between socialism and communism, because in reality, communism is a very strong centralized government, and communism looks to become as global as possible and take over as much as they can, whereas National Socialism is, they may look to take over things, but it's pride in that one country. We are number one kind of thing. So that's really the only difference. And we have said this many times before. We are a fascist. It's fascism that we have here, and there's no denying it. It doesn't matter who's in office. Okay, let's see examples of Obama. All his solar projects, whatever that one was, Solyndra, that went $500 million went to them, bailing out the car companies. Okay, this is all Obama. Okay, well, it's got to be better with a Republican, right? Oh no, sorry, there was TARP, where he banked and bailed out the insurance companies and the banks.
Sure.
So that's in a free market that doesn't happen. In a free market, they don't get loans from the government. They get a loan from the bank, and if the bank deems it a too risky a venture, and they don't think they're going to get their money back, the company goes boob up.
And even to go even further, like the article said, if you own your own business, you're not allowed to choose what you'll pay people.
Yeah.
You're not allowed. You're not allowed to say, no, I won't pay you extra for overtime. You're not allowed to say, no, I'm not going to go by some sort of minimum wage. You're forced to do certain things by an overbearing government, which, again, is them controlling business.
Mm-hmm.
If you had free market, you don't have that.
Yeah, and for example, I mean, you can even look at Tesla and their cars.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, if you go buy a Tesla gets like something like $7,000 or $8,000 from the government per car they sell. They sell a car,
yeah.
and if they sell a car for, let's say, $50,000 or whatever they're selling them for, $100,000. Right off the bat, they get $7,000 or $8,000 just handed to them from the government. Sure. That's because that's our incentive. Hey, good job. You get to I'm sure you get a tax break as well, but that's a government picking winners and losers.
Sure it is.
Which I don't think it should, which is ironic because Elon Musk is kind of a libertarian, but he sure as hell doesn't mind taking money from the government when it helps him.
Mm-hmm.
So he may be libertarian, but maybe he's not a principled one. Maybe he has this concept of, well, I'm a libertarian, but hey, I might as well get free money while I got it. Okay.
In the same vein, I'm looking for this story and I just can't find it. I was reading it, I believe yesterday or the day before, and I just can't find the story. But on how many people were just shocked, absolutely shocked, that some religious organizations that are the 501c organizations that take government money, okay, they were actually shocked to find out that now the government is telling them who they can hire and who and how they must hire them. And they all scream bloody murder, saying, well, that's freedom of religion, yada yada yada, the whole 9 yards. But You can't have it both ways. You can't have it to where you say, okay, well, I'm going to take money from the government and I get to decide. No, not when you put on those shoes. When you start taking money from the government, you got to do what they say. Or anybody else for that matter. But don't get all up and get your panties in a bunch when you see this. If you're going to be a true religious organization, do not take any money from the government. Stop this 501c thing where you're tax exempt and you can get grants and such. Don't do it. Set the example and actually stand up by your principles that you supposedly have. Because no matter what, when you start going down that road, just like they say, once the camel's nose gets into the tent, the rest of the camel follows. It's the same thing. Don't get mad about it. Don't blame Obama.
Well, and one could argue, one could easily argue, well, look, they're going to take your stuff, and they're going to control you anyway. You might as well get some money out of it. You might as well get something out of it because they will control you one way or the other. I mean, it is a tough, look, I mean, I can understand business owners, kind of.
These are the religious organizations that want and tout, a separation between the church and state. You don't tell us how to worship. We don't tell you how to run the government. You don't get involved in politics and the government. And it's the same people that say, I don't want the state to tell me how to worship. And I don't want the state to tell me.
In that case, yeah. I mean, look, I me, I get really irritated with all that because it's a do as I say, not as I do kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they'll get mad. They'll say, well, I don't want my, donations or whatever it may be to go towards abortions, which is fine. If you believe that, that's fine. Don't do it. Don't give to any organization that is for abortions. But then don't take money from those same people that want to provide abortions and then get mad about it.
Yeah.
When they tell you you have to. It's simple as that.
One of the things I find very interesting is you see it all the time. All these places like Seattle, and I believe Portland that have raised their minimum wage to $15 an hour. You're seeing it all the time where a lot of these business owners were for it. Oh, yeah. Oh, this is great, because, these people, and then now they're having to shut their doors because they're like, holy crap, this adds up. This adds up. I can't do this. This is ridiculous. I can't pay enough employees. It's just so funny to see these people. It's like the people that I remember seeing this. I don't know if it's true. I wouldn't doubt it. Where they were big Democrat donors. Excuse me. They were a big Democratic donor. I haven't slept all that well because my neck has been just a mess. I've been seeing a chiropractor the past couple weeks, and I don't know if it's actually made it better or worse because my neck muscles feel like they're in friggin' knots. Anyway, so it's like there was this couple that I saw. They were big Democratic contributors and stuff. And one or both of them had cancer, and because of Obamacare, their carrier cut them. Mm-hmm. And they either I think they increased their rate so much they couldn't afford it, so they dropped them because they couldn't pay. They couldn't pay it. And then they were bitching about, we can't afford the health care. We thought Obamacare was going to help. Well, that's what happens, numbnut, when you let the government run stuff, one, and two, you go along with people that say we have to pass it to find out what's in it. I mean, really, this is a case of this is a case of what's that, like, behind door number you could have this, or you could have this, or you could have the mystery thing at behind door C. Okay, and it's like, okay, let me see. I've watched this show many times, and behind door number C is a pile of crap that can't even be used for fertilizer every single time.
Yeah.
Let's go with door C.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's it.
Well, it'll be different this time.
Oh yeah. Okay, so Bob Barker saying it'll be different this time, and that's what he says every time.
Yeah.
Every time it's been a steaming pile of dog crap, full of worms and stuff, and we know that. But you know what? It could be different this time.
Yeah. Just like we're going to rely on the government because this time it's going to be different.
So let's move on, shall we, to a person we touched on in speech only. I mean, we're not talking biblically,
like
getting to know. Yes. We touched on earlier in the show, which is Rand Paul. And we had said, look, he, as far as things that matter, he has been steadfast, and he has really stuck to who we all thought he was, and I think he's making his father proud. And right now, he is saying how he will do anything he possibly can do to hold up the vote for the Patriot Act so it lapses.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really, from what I understand, that's all he really has to do. Because they have to vote on to continue it by a certain amount of time, or it lapses and it becomes null and void. It goes away.
There's an article from Politico that kind of lays it out a little bit. It's called "The Moment Rand Paul Has Been Waiting For." He plans to force the expiration of a surveillance law he's been railing against for years, but the political risks are enormous. Hours before the Senate's Patriot Act standoff hit its peak this month, Republican leaders thought they had Rand Paul figured out. He would object, rail on the matter on the Senate floor, and then let at least a temporary extension through. I don't agree with Senator Paul on the issue, but I think he's been a constructive guy. Senator Majority Whip John Cornyn of Texas said just before the week-long recess. A day later, with the clocks past midnight and the Senate in a standstill, largely because of Paul's objections, Cornyn wasn't nearly as generous. I'm a little surprised, a perplexed Cornyn said. Senator Paul is asking for something that nobody will agree to. Paul's handling of the Patriot Act issue has caused many of his GOP colleagues by surprise, and he now plans to drag the fight days past midnight, Sunday's deadline, forcing the sweeping surveillance law to expire, despite repeated cajoling by Senate Majority Leader Mitch. I've never seen a surveillance law that I didn't like, McConnell, over the Memorial Day recess. Paul plans to block his fellow Kentuckians' efforts to expedite. I'm having trouble talking. To expedite debate, he told Politico.
Because you know why? You know why you're having trouble talking?
Why?
Because you're not Morgan Freeman. Yeah,
I'm not Morgan Freeman. So he's gonna come out and fight it. He says, "Let me be clear. I acknowledge the need for a robust intelligence agency and for vigilant national security. I believe we must fight terrorism, and I believe we must stand strong against our enemies," Paul said in the statement. "But we do not need to give up who we are to defeat them. In fact, we must not. There has to be another way. We must find it together. So tomorrow I will force the expiration of the NSA illegal spy program." And they're mad. Oh, these neocons like McConnell and Cornyn and
Graham.
Graham. Oh, Graham's just going crazy.
Graham. Did you see the Sunday thing. You see that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. For those who haven't, look up Rand Paul Sunday. It's like a takeoff of WWE. It was put out by the Liberty PAC, and it's hilarious. It's all, because it's going off a WWE kind of thing, and it's like Sunday, and it's like, Liberty, champion of Liberty, Rand Paul, and it shows Rand Paul like superimposed on like some super big wrestler guy. And it's like, rah! And then it's like, he's going against Obama, who's like just sitting there with like all these like NSA and, CIA stickers all over his laptop, looking at people's emails. And then it's got, and Senator Lindsey Graham was going to try to do donuts in a 1983 Geo Metro. Look, he's on fire. It was hilarious. It was great. But look, good for Rand Paul. And you know what? It's going to be funny when I talk to my mom. My mom hates the Patriot Act. Hates it. And I mean, she's actually said she's waffling, on certain issues. I got a funny story to tell you about her. This is interesting. But anyway, so she's waffling on it because at first she was like, well, because when she saw like what Rand Paul was doing about like mandatory minimum sentences and giving speeches, I think at Brown and stuff like that. He's really the only person actually truly coming out and saying, look, minorities are getting screwed here. I mean, lots of Democrats will say, oh, minorities are, being targeted by police. Well, why are they being targeted by police? Is it because they're dumb? Could be. I'm actually going along with this. It could just be that a lot of these Democrats are just so effing stupid that they don't even look to see what the cause is. Now they're saying, well, there's a lot of crime in black neighborhoods, and it's horrible, but it's because of the police. The police are beating them up, and they are. I'm not going to deny it. I'm not going to sit there and go, well, the police. No, the police aren't doing anything wrong. Oh, damn, cigarette went out. I'm not going to say that because we know that is totally the case. But why? Why? Could it be because the drug war is a failure, and it becomes really their only means of really kind of getting a job, or at least that's what they think, and everybody's on welfare for the most part in the hood, and you can sit there and go, yeah, it's a racist. Shut up, it's the truth. All right, we did the numbers. It's a goddamn truth. All right. So now let's look. Oh wait. There's a lot more police because there's a lot more crime. Therefore, the likelihood of somebody getting caught with, let's say, some pot or something is greatly increased. And so he's addressing the real issue as to what the problem is. And he's saying, look, these mandatory minimum sentences, they're horrible. The drug war is a failure. All this kind of stuff. Okay, and he's actually addressing it. And my mom actually said, I have to say, I'm actually, if he is the candidate, the nominee, I'm going to consider him. Keep in mind, my mom, she is morally compelled to push the button for D. I mean, it's like she has to push the button for D. She can't push any other button. And then she did waffle. We were talking about something, and she was like, well, I tend to vote for the party that seems to be most aligned with what your beliefs are. I said, well, your party isn't that. Your party is socialist now. It's time for you to stand up and vote for actually who actually really fits. Because your party isn't what you think it is. It's a load of crap. So it's just something. If he was to get rid of the Patriot Act, and he was to force it to expire. You know how many people would have to, at the very least, have to at least consider him, that are Democrats that use the whole George Bush thing. You know, we hate George Bush and we hate the Patriot Act. You know, they'd have to at least. Okay, in theory they would have to. I mean, we know they probably wouldn't. They'd be like, well, okay, it was good, but it was probably Barack Obama that did it. You know, I mean, I don't know. It's just. So anyway, funny story about my mom. My parents are off gallivanting across like Southeast Asia right now. And you know it's not me, because if I was gallivanting across Southeast Asia, I'd be calling you from various brothels. You know, so anyway, so my mom informs me, oh yeah, we're going to go to Komodo and take pictures of Komodo dragons. So I had to inform my dear mom. I was like, all right, first of all, just make sure you up your life insurance policy and make me the sole beneficiary. Just because I'm going to warn you of this, the Komodo dragons are not like just regular old lizards that you see running around Florida. Okay, they're big, they're mean, they're aggressive, and they see you as a food source. And I was like, and if they bite you, you're going to at least get sepsis, if not die. You might even lose a limb, even with medical care, because the bacteria in their mouth is so nasty. So then she actually said, well, okay, all right, I'll take your advice. I wasn't aware of how serious this is. I was like, yeah, it's like dead serious. I got a picture of her from last year. They went to Africa. I got a picture. She's got her arm around a friggin' lion. Now it's a lion cub, but it's like a year-old cub. The thing is still bigger than her by a lot.
Absolutely.
And she's like, and
after a year, they're not cubs anymore, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And here's the thing. It was funny. She goes, "Oh yeah, don't worry." Right off camera, there was an armed guard. There was a guard with a machine gun. And I said, "Oh!" I said, "Wow!" So all of a sudden, you actually support people having guns when you're actually wrapping your arms around a friggin' lion, huh? I was like, all of a sudden, somebody having a gun, and he wasn't a policeman, right? And she was like, "No, he was just a." You know, he was hired by the company or whatever. I was like, I was like, so he wasn't a policeman, but he still had a gun, and it made you feel a little more secure when you're hugging the king of the jungle there, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She was like, okay, well, yes, okay. You know, she didn't want to touch that one because she knew I had her. So it's obviously a bit of a love-hate relationship with my mom, as you well know.
There's definitely, you know, an Oedipus thing going on there. So, you know, we won't touch on that. So.
It's not an Oedipus thing. It's not an Oedipus thing.
No, not an
Oedipus means I want to like do my mom. No, that's
well, not necessarily, but
it's a love-hate thing. I love my mom, but on many things, when it comes to political views, I absolutely cannot stand her.
Well, yeah, but you still won't, kill her. So, you know.
No, I did inform you. I won't. You're not allowed.
I think it's wrong.
You're not allowed to kill my mom. You are not allowed to shoot my mom. It is, you know. And here's the thing, Pete. If and when the poop hits the fan, okay, and everything collapses, you have to understand that I will be able to say to my mom, if she lives, as long as you observe the hands off my mom rule, I will be able to say to her every day for the rest of her life, yeah, I told you so.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep. There you go.
I told you so, and I saved your life.
And I saved your life. I saved your life because, Pete wanted to just do away with you. And if you were anybody else, I'd say, go ahead.
Do it.
I'll load the gun for you.
Hey, did you happen to hear, I don't know if you've been reading anything lately, but that the lyrics for Don McLean's American Pie were just sold?
No.
he just sold the lyrics for the song American Pie for $1.2 million.
That's
which
it?
is actually a paltry sum compared to actually they were talking about the top three, best songs ever, for American nostalgia or Americana. Where was number 3 was American Pie. Number 2 was Bob Dylan's Like a Rolling Stone, which just sold for, or had sold for, somewhere around 2.1 or 2.2 million. And then another John Lennon song, which I never heard of. But that doesn't really mean anything. But that sold for something like $3 or $4 million. So, but as it was sold, Don McLean actually came out and told, what the lyrics actually meant. And it shows you on what this was. It wasn't the actual song that he sold, but it was the lyrics that he wrote out, longhand on pieces of notebook paper years ago, and with all his different notes as to what the different meanings were to the song. And everyone has always thought, no, I'm going to ask you, do you know what the song was about?
I got to go right. Okay. Bye, bye, Miss American Pie. So much, drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was drunk. Them good old boys was drinking whiskey and rye, singing, "This'll be the day that I die. This'll be the day that I die." And then I don't know the verses. So no, I don't know what it was. It's about some good old boys.
For years, people had thought that it was basically a song about Buddy Holly, Don, and the Big Bopper.
Yes. That is what I've heard. Yes.
Yeah. And it is part of that. That's part of why he wrote the song. But there's other reasons in it, and if you look through some of the words, and as I tell you now, you're going to sit there and go, holy crap. What the song was really meaning was it was the end of the American era, where people were actually trying to become more communist, and they were leaning towards socialism, and there was people out there that were trying to kill us, and we were pretty much ignorant to the fact that they were trying to kill us, and it was against some of the pop culture at the time. And like it says here, he wrote a little article about it. It says, people ask me if I left the lyrics open to ambiguity, McLean said in an early interview. Of course I did. I wanted to make a whole series of complex statements. The lyrics had to do with the state of society at the time. But what was that state? There's a huge bunch of characters in the song. If you ever listen to it, there's Miss American Pie herself. There's also references to Karl Marx. And in the one line of the song, it says, well, Lenin read a book on Marx. Well, everyone thinks that that's Vladimir Lenin, but it's not. It's actually John Lennon. And it was at the time when John Lennon and the Beatles were kind of more the John Lennon, but he was going off the reservation a little bit and was turned into a real socialist. Lenin read a book on Marx. The quartet practiced in the park. The quartet is the Beatles, and the park is when they did the concert in Central Park, and that was around that same time. And it talks about James Dean and Charles Manson, and when I read about his widowed bride, that's actually about Jackie Kennedy and the Vietnam War. And there's a lot of different things in here. People sit there and go, oh, no, it can't mean that. Yeah, that's what it means. Good old boys are drinking whiskey and rye. Those are the average Americans. The ones that kept their way of life. They wanted to keep their way of life and not get involved with this new socialism. And we're against it. So when people say, oh, it's just about Buddy Holly. It wasn't. There's a lot going on in that song with different characters' names who actually represent other people. And I never realized that until, probably about 4 or 5 years ago. Somebody had pointed it out to me, and they said, no, man, this has got to be what it's about, And as you think about it, and then you listen to the song takes on a completely different meaning, completely different from what you originally think it's about. So now, when you listen to that song, and you probably will as soon as you get off the air.
Well, and to be honest, I mean, I've listened to that song and I've heard that. Oh, it's about Buddy Holly, and I've always said, no, I think it's more than just that. I mean, and I've said, okay, it's I forget what part where it does kind of, like allude to that, and but I do remember thinking. He's definitely referring to things that went on, like what you were saying about, like, widowed bride and stuff. I did know that was, or I had assumed that was, talking about JFK and stuff like that, because there were certain things that, and I always thought it was Lenin, not Lenin, Vladimir, but I always thought it was John Lennon, so. There was, I knew there was, it was just kind of singing about the times, which would make sense because, and it actually doesn't surprise me at all, because I always thought it was more. I always thought it was kind of singing about a time, and obviously it changed because it's referring to things dying, like, like Buddy Holly and stuff like that, dying. And if you think about it, because it uses things like the Beatles and stuff as a reference, and it's using Buddy Holly, it's talking about Buddy Holly. And if you think about it, you had Buddy Holly, and that was kind of like Americana. And then all of a sudden you had the Beatles with Lennon and stuff like that, which shows it changing. But it was also, it was obviously dealing with events going on and stuff like that. So I always thought it was more than just like, oh, they died. It's kind of like Serving the Servants by Nirvana.
Mm-hmm.
When you read that, you're kind of like, you see Kurt Cobain is really just he's just almost dropped the F on there. You can see he's just like, F this. He's like, he's just tired of everything, which I don't believe, actually. I'm not really sure he killed himself, by the way. I think Courtney Love had a hand in that. But anyway, but yeah, it is funny when you listen to things, it's like, in that lyrics, it starts off, teenage angst has been our friend, but now I'm bored and old, and then it just goes on from there. But it is interesting if you look at Kurt Cobain, Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison, who was the crazy chick, the Janis Joplin, I think one other. They all died at the age of 27.
Yeah. Yep. And, you think of, like, Janis Joplin as this, like, dirty hippie chick, and, probably a socialist chick. But you know what? She was actually a little bit different. She was a dirty hippie. There's no two ways about it. She was hideous. But her voice was good. It was an odd sounding voice, and it was good the way that she sang songs and stuff. But actually, the more you listen to the songs that she wrote and the songs that she sang, it was actually more libertarian.
Yeah. Because
it had nothing to do with, like, wanting to be, she hated government, so it was, and it wasn't just the Nixons or the Johnsons or this and that. She hated it all.
Yeah.
So it's pretty funny, that some of the, and I don't know, I think.
Well, look at Hendrix. I mean, the Watchtower. I mean, that's, or what is it? The Watchtower, or All Along the Watchtower, or something, or whatever the name of the song is. I mean, that certainly is basically anti-government.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, at least as far as I interpret it, and it's saying like businessmen, what is it? Come and take my herb, and try to take my wine, and
Right.
I mean it's so it's like basically it's like, hey, look, the establishment is trying to just infringe upon me and stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, there well, and Rush is like basically just a bunch of libertarians. There are different bands. Now, in my opinion, is the best anti-government band to come out, in my opinion, is the band First Blood. And it's music I'm sure you would never listen to in a million years. It's very heavy, but it is, I mean, if you just read the lyrics, that's what I want you to do. If if you're not too tired or something, just look up First Blood, Silence is Betrayal lyrics. You don't have to listen to the music, just read the lyrics. And you'll be like, yeah, this is the best anti-government band that's ever been. They don't pull punches. They don't pull punches, and like one of their songs is "Kill the Messenger," which is basically, talking about, look, we have to kill the messenger. We don't just, we don't just have to get rid of like what we've talked about, and a lot of times I've given passes to people. Oh, well, you're just trying to earn a living and stuff like that. No, you are part of the problem. Yeah. And that's that's what it's about. It's,
in the majority of the time. So.
And they have a song called "Fascism" on that album, and that's what it talks about. And and I think I've actually told you before. What it does is it takes that that famous saying by the Jew in Germany. I forget which one that was in Germany. Who said first they came for the communists and I did nothing, for I wasn't a communist. And blah 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 blah. And and they change the lyrics a little. They change the words a bit. And it says, first they came for the outcasts and I didn't speak because their reasons for fighting I just would not believe. And then they shut down the protests, limit freedom of speech. Does anyone even notice when history repeats? Something, and then something else. And then it says, with no one left to keep fighting, you ask what should I do? When no one's left to speak up and they start coming for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you'll get a hard on reading the lyrics, and then you'll listen to the music and you'll be like, oh my goddamn ears, it's it's too much. No mas.
This just sucks.
It's a little bit heavy for my liking. Like normally I wouldn't like it because it's a little too heavy for what I usually like, but because I really identify with it, it's one of my favorite albums. But it's like, I mean, considering I like stuff like Slipknot and stuff, and it's heavier than Slipknot, so.
Which is like really like loud.
Which is loud, yeah. Which is definitely loud, and for your delicate old leprechaun ears, it would probably, it would probably just turn you into a puddle of jelly. So.
But it's not so much that when anyone plays to distort that much, it's just because they don't know how to play music. So, it's not really because they want it to be that loud. It's just they're like, let's do this like on distort so people can't tell that we're actually hitting all the wrong chords. So,
and I would actually agree with that. I would not say that's the case with Slipknot. Slipknot is actually pretty talented. I mean, they actually are pretty talented. I would say that might be true with First Blood. I'm not going to say yes or no. I'd say that could be true. It's definitely true with some bands. I think Sepultura, I think they're from Brazil, and they didn't even know how to play instruments, and they just started banging stuff out. And they've just, they're that kind of stuff, man. I just call it Cookie Monster metal. Because that's what it sounds like. It sounds like Cookie Monster's having a fit over a cookie. He's like, give me cookie, I want cookie.
Pretty much, yeah.
So.
That's pretty much it. They all sound pretty much the same. Hey, here's a bit of good news. A Wall Street banker, another Wall Street banker, has left
dead?
to his death.
All right.
Yeah.
Did he happen to, did he have like all sorts of handprints on him, like on his back?
No, which is oddly enough, but and also another one, the American Express president died suddenly after falling ill in a flight. Plane made an emergency landing. Let's see, U.S. American Express spokeswoman said, but she declined to say where Gilligan had been. That was his name.
Maybe I think he was probably on a. I think he was on a 3-hour tour.
Yeah. So, but one thing I will say, maybe he's probably a scumbag. American Express CEO Chenault, in a letter to his employees Friday, said Gilligan began working at American Express company 35 years ago as an intern. He was named president of the company in 2013. So they obviously didn't like something that he was doing, so they killed him. And then the successful investment banker, 29, leaps to his death from a luxury New York apartment after returning from a Bahamas holiday. He jumped from a 24-story Manhattan building. His body exploded on impact after hitting a guardrail and possibly passing cars. The man was believed to be from a wealthy family, but was successful in his own right. The first thing that comes to mind is that song Jump You Effers, which if you want to look at that up on YouTube, that's loads of fun. And let's see, the only thing that could have made this better that I could think of is that he hit another one or two bankers on the way down.
Oh boy, that's funny.
That's two of them in 1 week, so not bad. It's a good start. I think that brings the deaths of bankers and upper echelon bankers up to 13 now for the year, which is actually a slower pace than last year. By this time last year, we were in the dozens. So eventually, we look forward to the second half of the year for more good news such as this.
So here's some good news. No, I'm not really. I'm not being serious. Headline says, fatal police shootings in 2005 approaching 400 nationwide. And what this is saying is it listed like 3 cases where people were gunned down. One was a 17-year-old girl joyriding in a stolen car in Backwoods, North Carolina. Police opened fire on a gun-wielding moonshiner. And in a high-rise apartment in Birmingham, Alabama, police shot an elderly man after his son asked them to make sure he was okay. Douglas Harris, 77, answered the door with a gun and then was gunned down. The 3 are among at least 385 people shot and killed by police nationwide during the first 5 months of this year, more than 2 a day, according to a Washington Post analysis. That is more than twice the rate of fatal police shootings tallied by the federal government over the past decade, a count the officials concede is incomplete. These shootings are grossly underreported, said Jim Bowerman, a former police chief and president of the Washington-based Police Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving law enforcement. We are never going to reduce the number of police shootings if we don't begin to accurately track this information. So basically they're saying, let me see, among the Post findings, about half the victims were white, half minority, but the demographic shifted sharply among the unarmed victims, 2/3 of whom were black or Hispanic. Overall, blacks were killed at 3 times the rates of whites or other minorities when adjusting by the population of the census tracts where the shootings occurred. This goes back to what we were saying before, which is, why don't we start addressing, the actual issue You know, instead of just saying, oh well, you know, okay, there's a lot of shootings, and now we need to stop the guns from getting into the cities. It's not the answer. That's a Ben Carson answer.
Sure.
You know.
Sure. Yeah. I don't think that's going to slow down. I think
it's just going to rise.
Yeah, I think that's going to just get bigger and bigger and bigger. So as time goes on, just like all the different stuff that's going on in Chicago and in Detroit, and now in Baltimore. Baltimore's like a hellhole now. Not that it was a vacation, before, but Baltimore has more problems now than ever before. So all those busted protesters, they did their jobs. For anyone who thinks that was like ground, grassroots and just people protesting, you're out of your freaking minds. They were bussed in, and there was definitely community organizers, just like Barack Hussein Obama, in amongst those groups, and this was staged. So we say, pants up, don't loot, and let's stop with all the bullshit. So, Pete, I shouldn't have said that because we're PG-13. Bull excrement.
Bull excrement.
So I don't know if that's actually a bad one. So, but that's all I got.
Well, here we go. Administration preps new gun regulations. The Justice Department plans to move forward this year with more than a dozen new gun-related regulations, according to list of rules the agency has proposed to enact before the end of the Obama administration. I read that correctly. For example, the regulations range from new restrictions on. New restrictions on was one word, by the way. New restrictions on. The regulations range from new restrictions on high-powered pistols to gun storage requirements. Chief among them is a renewed effort to keep guns out of the hands of people who are mentally unstable or have been convicted of domestic abuse. The domestic abuse issue, I want to actually address that part. Because we know, look, all right, fine. You want to get the Justice Department. You want to start. Look, let's just make this one point clear. Obama can do what he wants to, and the Justice Department can do what he wants, what she wants to, because it's it's Loretta Lynch.
Yes.
They can do what they want to. They can write all the regulations and all the bull crap laws they want to. But you know what? It's not law. As per what does still define things if things go to court. You can write a law. Go ahead, Obama. You can write a law that says you can write your quote unquote law, your executive order or whatever the hell you want to do, that says that there is no longer high-capacity magazines. You can no longer have a sporting rifle with a magazine that carries is capable of carrying more than 10 rounds of ammunition. And I honestly will send you a picture of all my 30-round magazines loaded. I mean, before the Great Delaware Water Gap, boating disaster. And because I took pictures before. I mean, both Pete and I took pictures before just because we were so giddy about our test, to put them in a canoe with a screen bottom. So anyway, and I'll send you a picture of all my things with another picture of me with my middle finger up at you. Okay, because then you can send your jackbooted thugs after me, and I'll challenge it in court, and I'll say, well, here, simply just this. Who wrote the law? Well, Barack Obama did. Barack Obama doesn't write laws. He's the president. His job is to enforce. Therefore, this law is null and void. Thank you. I'm going to go home now.
Actually, his job isn't even to enforce. His job is to execute.
Yeah, execute. Yeah, that's true.
That's the reason he's the executive branch.
Yeah, it's actually the not the DA. Yeah, it's the Justice Department and the Attorney General whose job is to execute. But regardless, Obama, I hate to tell you, and the Justice Department, you don't write rules. All your rules apply to those in the employment of your agencies. So if the Justice Department writes a rule that says all our officers or all the people, all the field agents must carry body armor, then that requires that all agents carry body armor. It doesn't mean that police have to carry body armor. It doesn't mean that people in the FBI have to have body armor. And it doesn't mean that average citizens have to walk around with body armor. Okay? Same thing with Barack Hussein Obama or with George W., we should just call him George Warner Brothers Bush. I mean, seriously, because he was a goddamn cartoon. Okay? Think about it. You could totally see George Bush in a Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
See now here, Bunny Rabbit. See, I just need to kind of look at what you got under in all those carrots there. Because I think you're cursed. Okay, and and then Bugs Bunny does stuff like
you just made him sound more like Ross Perot.
They're all from Texas. They're all from Texas. Keep in mind, I'm not from Texas. So I must not be from Texas. So,
you must not be from Texas. So,
I must not be from Texas. So, so I can't do the accent. So all Texans have the Ross Perot-ian accent. Okay.
Yeah, right. Right.
So just think, and then Bugs Bunny, pulls his 10-gallon hat down over his head and gives him a big kiss, and then dresses up like a woman, and he's like, Laura's baking cookies right now, so let's say you and me go in the little rabbit hole. Oh man, I've got a whole friggin' script all set. Okay. So anyway, so the fact of the matter is George Bush, all his executive orders are all just for people in employment of the federal government. So anyway, so you can write all those laws and all that bull crap and blah 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 blah. Blah. Okay, fine. It's all crap. It's not a law. You know what? Barack Hussein Obama, you're as much a king as King Henrik Lundqvist for the Rangers, the goaltender for the Rangers. The king without a cup, the king without a crown, the guy that can't win the Stanley Cup. What kind of king is he? He is, as Metallica puts it, King Nothing. Okay? So suck it. So anyway, I want to address the domestic violence thing. Domestic violence is domestic violence is one of those things like rape and racism. Okay? Now nobody's going to is going to, if there's a guy that let's say he gets caught, he's on Facebook or on YouTube and he's saying end this and end that and kill all the, okay, he's a racist. I'm not going to deny that. He's a racist, all right, fine. If there's somebody that's, if some girl has just gotten the S knocked out of her, and she's beat up and she has tearing and her clothes are torn and she's got, scratches on her and stuff like that. And, there's DNA inside her and and then the guy gets arrested and caught and he's got her finger, he's got stuff under his fingernails, like her DNA, and he's got bruises on his hands and he's got scratch marks on her face. Hey, look, I'm pretty sure that's an open and shut case of a violent rape. And this guy should be thrown in prison. All right. But there's many, many, many cases, as we know, if you criticize the current president, you're a racist. You mention nothing of race. You say his policy is tyrannical. You're a racist. There's been plenty of cases where a guy gets in a girl's pants. Maybe lied to her. Maybe said, "Yeah, baby, I love you," and then like turns out he didn't love her. He just wanted to screw her. He walks out. She calls the police. He raped me. And that's the same thing with domestic violence. Domestic violence can, if you have somebody, a husband that has beat the living crap out of his wife, like she knocked her down and kicked her and stuff like that, and it's absolute. There's no doubt about it. My God, that guy shouldn't have a gun. I agree. He shouldn't have a gun. She should. And she should shoot his ass if he ever comes near her. But it's gotten so crazy. For example, Bear. Bear was arrested one time for domestic violence. Okay? He had an argument with his wife. He said he was going to leave. He wanted out of the situation. She blocked his path to the door. Bear's a big man. His wife is not a big woman. He grabbed her by the arms and moved her. Didn't even pick her up, just grabbed her by the arms and moved her and walked out the door. The police came. She had called the police. She had called the police. Somebody called the police. They came. They got her statement. They got his statement. He told them exactly what happened, and she said the same thing. She actually didn't say, "Oh, he beat the crap out of me" or anything. She just told him, "Yeah, he grabbed me and he moved me." She actually said that, and he said that. He said, and they said, "You're under arrest." He said, "For what?" They said, "Well, you put your hands on her. You're arrested. You're under arrest for domestic violence."
But she wasn't, arrested for impeding his travel.
No, she wasn't. No, of course not. She wasn't arrested for impeding his travel. I mean, and women get a pass in cases of abuse usually. Now, my brother-in-law, former brother-in-law, he had it was a back and forth while they were going through their divorce. Or before their divorce, it was a back and forth. They knew the back of a police car intimately because of domestic violence issues. And none of them were really bad. In fact, she was much worse on him. His was merely like him grabbing her and trying to calm her down. That was one of them. I had a girlfriend. And she was a nutcase, okay? And one time she flipped out. She was she had borderline personality disorder. Do you know anything about that?
Oh, yeah.
It's one of the worst ones. It's a horrible one. Adolf Hitler is believed to have had borderline personality disorder. And so I dated Adolf Hitler, okay? In fact, I think I would have preferred to date Adolf Hitler. And so anyway, one time she flips out and she punches me like three times in the face. And she's not stopping. This isn't like pow, pow, pow. This is pow, pow, pow. And so on like after the third, I grabbed her arm. I grabbed her other arm and I pinned her down on the couch. And I pinned her on the couch. I said, "Stop." And then she tried to knee me in the nuts, and I blocked that shot, thankfully. Okay. And she's like, let go. I said, "I'm not going to let you go until you stop hitting me." "Are you going to stop hitting me?" "Yeah, I'm going to stop hitting you." And so I got up, and she did stop hitting me. But her first thing out of her mouth, "I'm going to call the cops, and I'm going to have them arrested." Because, and I'm just like, "For what?" And she goes, "Look, I've got marks on my arms." And I was like, "Are you effing kidding me?" She goes, "No." She was like, "That's all I've got to do is call the cops. You left marks on my arms, and they'll bruise." And they did. She was friggin' punching me. But I don't even need to defend myself. I already stated she was punching me repeatedly. I defended myself, and I could have legitimately had knocked her out as a defense, but I didn't. But she would have been right. She would have been right. The funny thing is actually her mom came out. Her mom heard the thing. She came out and said, "If you call the police, I'm going to have them take you away. Because I know exactly what happened. I heard everything. And he should have beat your ass." So that's actually probably why she didn't call the police.
Right.
Now, had it come down to a trial, I probably would have been convicted or probably had to take a plea deal, right? Because of some psycho.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, she could have a gun, but I can't.
Yeah, well, that's the issue. So, it's because it's such a broad thing, and domestic abuse could be just like you say. You could have been defending yourself, and there's no reason for it.
Well, it's as I said. I mean, my former brother-in-law, his wife was attacking him, punching him as well, and he grabbed hold of her. And he's a big, he was like a big kind of like, amateur bodybuilder and everything. And he grabbed hold of her and he did leave bruises on her arms. Clearly, clearly when you see that, you're clearly not trying to inflict pain, especially if you're a big guy. And his argument, of course, was, if I was trying to inflict pain, I could have just punched her once and I could have crushed her skull. Mm-hmm. And he's right. He could have. But he still got hauled off, and then another time she attacked him, and she left scratches on him, and he just took the abuse and called the police, and he wound up locking himself in a bathroom, and they came, and then they hauled her off to jail.
Right.
Because she had left marks. But that's all it really takes. That's the thing. If you got a little bit of a vendetta against somebody, put some marks on yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Call the police, say, look, this person, they don't even have to be there.
No.
Or they could have just been in the house and said, hey, hon, I'm going to run to the store. Oh yeah, okay. Go and scratch yourself and be like, and call the cops. We had an argument. Hey, I don't know what happened. We had an argument, and he attacked me. He grabbed me and he shoved me. And he did this to me. Hey. And then you walk in, you're like, I got the ice cream. You're getting tased.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, with that, the clock on the wall tells us it's after 10. And it's been a wonderful evening. We've enjoyed entertaining you, even though we do not sound like Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman, or the other guy or Darth Vader.
Yeah. God, and I know his name.
I can't remember.
I see his face, and I know his name.
Oh yeah. He's the guy that looks like a frog.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I for the life of me, I just can't come up with it. But there's the 10 seconds after we're off here. I'll say, oh, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, with that, we'll be back again, hopefully, Wednesday at 8 o'clock. And we'll have more stories to tell and probably a lot more BS as well. So should I tell the story real quick about what my middle son said while I was driving? It's a quick story. Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to share this. Pete already heard this, but I hate allergies. I really do. Anyway, along with that, I'm driving along, with my three boys. We're driving along, and there's somebody driving very slowly in front of us, and I'm getting irritated. And I say to the boys, I say, Daddy hates like everybody, right? And they're like, like they hear this all the time. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, and ironically, I brought 3 more people into the world, and my middle son, who just turned 8 last weekend, he goes, that's because of your penis.
It was on its own and left to its own devices.
It was
more people into the world.
Detachable penis.
So with the detachable penis in mind, look for us again Wednesday at 8 o'clock. Same Revolution time, same Revolution channel. Adios, you chicken plucking little stinkers.
Auf Wiedersehen.